All new at noon, a woman is seriously burned but thankful to be alive after her neighbor rescued her from a fire on the far west side. The woman was sleeping around 8 this morning when that fire started at a house on Bald Mountain. Eyewitness News reporter Charlie Cooper has this report from the scene.
Yeah, neighbors told me they woke up this morning to the sound of a boom and came outside and saw the garage doors on this garage blown out of the way. And in fact, it was a neighbor who police say saved this woman's life. Actually, one of her neighbors saw a fire raging out of her garage, was brave enough to go inside and pull that woman out. Now, when EMS arrived on the scene, they found her laying outside on her driveway with burns all over her body. She's since been transported to SAMC for treatment, but EMS and fire tell us that inside of that home, there wasn't very much inside, and there definitely wasn't enough to determine just yet what started that fire. In fact, they say only the garage was furnished. The first and second floor was completely empty and vacant, as though someone was moving in or moving out. That woman, again, no word on her condition, but she is at SAMC being treated right now. Back to you guys.